Welcome to Duel Talk with Brian Galloway and Henry Robb, sponsored by Duel Threads, your source for motivational apparel. What's up, Warriors? Welcome to the second episode of Duel Talk. I'm Brian Galloway, and alongside me, as always, Henry Robb. How you doing today, Henry?
Pretty good, Brian. It's a cheat day. It's always good on a cheat day.
My man loves his cheat days.
Here we have, for the interview today, we have Dan Galloway, who is Brian's brother and co-founder of Duel. What's up, Dan?
How's it going, guys?
Pretty good.
We joked about it last time, maybe being able to drag Dan onto the podcast. And we got him to show up, so I hope you're all proud of us.
I see some bruises on Dan's face. Is that because you beat him to get on the podcast?
It took a little bit of effort, but nothing he won't bounce back from.
So what's up, Dan? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Nothing much.
How's your training going?
It's all right. It's been better, but getting ready for back to school, so.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when everybody gets into a good routine, it's much easier.
Yeah, I can't wait for the routine to start.
Yeah,
it's gonna be
I feel like
better.
that's most of lifting is just getting to that routine, and because when you're going on vacation, it's summertime, and going to the beach, it's hard to get into a good lifting routine. But
exactly, I can't wait for it.
Yeah, you get back into school and start lifting every day. So, so let's just jump into it. For you guys, I know Brian's background and how he got into this, but Dan, what was your experience? Did Brian come to you and say, hey, let's start getting jacked, or what was the dynamic there? How did you get started?
I think we both wanted to start lifting weights and get healthy and look better individually in the beginning, but we didn't really talk about it with each other until we got to school. And then I know he was going while he was at school, and I was still in high school. It was my senior year, his first year. So I was still kind of stuck at home trying to figure out things to do at home because I didn't have a car to go to the gym or pay to go to the gym or anything like that. I didn't have a job. So I knew Brian was going a little bit when he was up at school.
Because mine started up at school, so that was all included, however you want to phrase it, in your tuition and all that other kind of stuff. So I had the gym right there. All I got to do is walk to it.
And it's super convenient once you're up at school. Like, you have so much more free time. You're not in school from 7 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock, and then you're doing homework, and then you got to do whatever you have to do at home. Like, at school, you go to your class for 3-4 hours a day, and then you could just walk to the gym and do whatever. Like,
right.
I feel it's like more of your own time when you're there at college. But
so just to give the back of what Dan's talking about, so he was still in high school when I started. I'm two school years ahead of him. So when he joined me up at college, we ended up going to the same college. We roomed together. So my junior year, his freshman year, we were together and we were able to start jumping into lifting together, running together, all that kind of stuff. That's where it really kicked off heavy between the two of us, being on this journey really together.
Yeah, so I mean, when I decided that I was going to school where he was going to school, it was kind of like, all right, let's go to the gym together. Let's start doing this. Since we kind of both knew we both wanted it, but we were in separate spots, and then we were finally in the same spot, so we were able to start working together on it.
Were you guys pretty close in fitness level at that point?
In terms of capabilities, Dan's always been faster than me and everything like that. Growing up, I mean, he was always still, we're just about the same height. He's probably about an inch taller than me, and he was just always the smaller kid, able to run faster, different things like that. I was always the bigger guy, obviously weight-wise, but also, still to this day, able to lift a little bit more than him and that kind of thing. So that still continued through where he was always the smaller, I shouldn't say smaller, not height-wise, but the lighter, quicker one, and I was always, the bigger, more powerful of the two.
Right. And, I mean, we kind of understood that dynamic. I mean, we grew up together our whole lives together, so we kind of knew what we were getting ourselves into,
Yeah, that's something I kind of went with Jeff, because he was always like running, and I'm always like lifting at the gym, so we couldn't really work out together because he would try and go on like a 6-hour run, and I'm like, I don't know if I can handle that. I can maybe ride my bike. Even riding my bike, I had trouble. And then I'd bring him to the gym, and he'd be like, I can't lift this much. So,
and I mean, I know my weight loss struggles started a little bit later on in life too than Brian's did. I think mine were around like middle school, like just the start of middle school. I started seeing a lot of weight gain, like in elementary school and everything like that. And kids like used to make fun of me for being too skinny, or like my parents would be like, "You're way too skinny," and like you could see all my bones and everything. And then, I mean, obviously, I got a lot heavier than that, and it went the other side of the spectrum. But
So was there a year, a certain time that you realized you started really getting big?
Not specifically. Like I don't remember the exact time or like date or anything like that or year, but I just remember gradually seeing like my stomach get bigger, and I was just like, I don't know how this is happening, because I mean I was younger at the time. Like we're talking middle school. Like you don't totally understand your body or like what's going on. Like you're just trying to be a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
when you start just knowing seeing the changes, you're just like, I don't really know what to do. This is kind of like just happening, you know? I was just like along for the ride at that point. Like I had no idea that I was getting myself at this point.
And this is where I want to bring up, we mentioned it last week there that we had a cake story, Dan related cake story. And that's, it goes off of, you said, did you notice like a time when you got big and you got kind of sick of it, and that's when you started the journey? For me, my thing, I told you I started when I was in college. I mean, that freshman year is when I really made the concerted effort, but there was Dan's birthday's in March, and I'll kind of let him take over the story, but this is what kind of mentally, physically, whatever you want to call it, the whole deal, this was the day that was my starting point, where everything came full circle. Like, not necessarily I went home and I started eating salad for dinner, but this is where I knew, like, all right, something's got to change.
But good salad, not salad from the burger.
Not salad that we talked about in the last episode from the steakhouse. No, good, healthy, clean salad, not the king of all salads. So I'll let Dan jump into it, but this is my day that started for me.
All right, so I guess everybody's waiting for this story, so I might need some help.
I was actually waiting.
I remember it vividly, so
I might need some help with Brian for some details, but
I'll interject if you miss any of the funny stuff too.
So like you said, my birthday's in March, and I've always wanted to go skiing or snowboarding. So I tossed around the idea. I got like the boots and like pants and all this other stuff, so I was like geared up and ready to go. And we went with my one of my best friends in high school, and obviously we went with Brian. Me and my friend were going skiing, and Brian wanted to go snowboarding. I don't know, was I still in high school?
Yeah,
was
you were
this my
still in
senior
high school.
year?
It was my freshman year of college.
All right, so I was in high school still at this point. So weight loss journey was very minimal, if anything, at this point.
But you knew that this is something you wanted to start doing.
I would say at this point I probably had no idea.
Okay.
I was just like it would just be like months on, months off of me like doing like wall sits in my bedroom for like 30 seconds and like 5 push-ups. Like that was me trying to do something.
Okay.
So it was my birthday, obviously. So we had cake, I guess, the night before or something like that. And
yeah, your birthday must have been the day before we went. Like, the skiing wasn't on your birthday because we had the dinner, we had the cake, and then we were going skiing.
Right.
So it must have been like a Thursday or a Friday and whatever. We still had cake left over when we went on that Saturday, however it played out.
So from us having the big dinner last night plus the cake last night, we still had cake left over in the morning. So I thought it was a good idea to have cake for breakfast that day. I guess because it was just my birthday, so I was like, I could have cake on my birthday for breakfast. Why not?
And it's Dan's birthday, so I'm his brother, so why can't I too? So both of us had cake for breakfast.
And we both knew ahead of time we were going skiing and snowboarding after this.
It didn't sneak up on us. We were well aware of what was happening later in the day.
You were well aware of the bad
Well, I don't know how
choices
well
you were
aware,
about to
but
make.
we were aware that we were going. We didn't necessarily take it into consideration, clearly.
So I don't remember how much cake we had or whatever, or if it
Enough.
was a decent slice, I'm guessing. Because we didn't do anything halfway back then when
Besides
it came to food.
Decent to hefty slices, nothing less.
So we were on our drive there, and I started getting sick in the car. I tried to like just put it away, but it couldn't happen. So I had to get my dad to pull over, and I ended up tossing up some cake.
Projectile
from earlier that
vomiting
morning.
cake.
Some
Yeah.
cake.
Luckily, it didn't happen while I was skiing or snowboarding out on the slope with like everybody. It was like in the middle of the road somewhere, so at least that part is all right.
But this is my favorite part of the story, because never mind did we have cake for breakfast, all that. Dan gets sick, okay, whatever. That's kind of expected. You're waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning. You're starting your day off with, some heavy, deep chocolate cake, and you're ready to rock, and a nice long car ride. My thing was when he pulled over, he did his thing, and then just kept asking repeatedly, is this public or private property? Public or private property? And I'm like, out of everything that's happened between
That's all he
actually
cared
eating
about.
the cake for breakfast, getting sick on the way there, having to get so sick to the point that he had to pull over and take care of business, and the big issue was, is this public or private property?
I'm a very considerate guy. I didn't want to throw up in like someone's driveway. Like Like, if I have a home, I don't want some kid throwing up in my driveway and coming out to that and seeing that in the morning. So I was concerned.
You kind of sound like a drunk person, just repeatedly asking the same thing over and over again.
I was in a daze. I
Rub
mean,
some dirt on
I had
it.
a decent sized chocolate cake for breakfast, and I was sick.
So then the rest of the ride was pretty uneventful, and I'll kind of take over from here because this is really where it became my moment in a way for my own journey.
Yeah.
So, uneventful rest of the ride, I mean, it's hard to top that first half, but uneventful the rest of the way. We get there, we park, get set up with the instructors. They give you the equipment, we're strapping the boots in, take a couple pictures, things like that of the three of us, and then we go out. So Dan and our buddy's name is Sean. Dan and Sean go with the ski instructor because as Dan said, they're doing skiing, and I'm going to do the snowboarding. So I have my own snowboard instructor, 2 different spots of the bunny slope, whatever you want to call it, training area. So I'm with my guy, and he's probably a year or 2 younger than me. Obviously, very skilled snowboarder, so he knew what he was talking about. So essentially, I don't know if anybody's ever gone, for snowboarding lessons, whatever. You strap in, you go down the little tiny hill. Most times, if you've never done it before, like me, you fall right away. So you go down, you try to get back up, you go a little bit farther, you fall again. So that's all good. So the point came where I had to go back up the slope itself. There's no little, pulley kind of system like Dan and Sean had for the skiing.
Right, yeah.
It's you take one foot out of the board, you take a step, and you take your, for me, it was my right foot that was still hooked into the board and slam it into the side of the hill to kind of take your steps that way, and you inch your way up the hill. So for me, that was killer. I mean, just to be able to do that at 286 pounds, putting all that extra weight on the pressure and, being on a slope that's essentially ice, wasn't good for me at all. So I was struggling through that, going crazy. My ankles are killing me, and obviously being 286, and we talked about in the last podcast, always trying to do sports and still be active. It's a lot of weight on your joints, so my ankles were killing. And, just the boots don't fit right because your ankles are bigger. I've always had big calves, but my calves were bigger, so they're digging into there. So it was just like such a painful experience, the cardio of it, just being able to get back up the hill, just to slide down, 2-3 feet before falling, landing on my butt, that whole mentality. And it got to the point where I cut it short. I cut the lesson short. I wasn't able to do it. I didn't want to keep going through the pain, and that was the moment, walking off that slope and going back and sitting in the lodge, just hanging out, watching them 2 do their thing. That's the spot where I was like, man, something's got to change, because they're able to keep doing what they're doing. At this point, Dan's not as heavy as I am, but he's still at his heaviest, and he's able to do things. And I remember thinking at that point, I would just love to be where he's at, and that's his starting point. I would just love to be at that weight. Never mind, my ultimate goal weight,
because
or what
you guys are
even now
pretty similar in height. So for you to want to be closer to Dan's weight, it kind of makes sense.
Right. So I mean, that was the moment for me where I know it said it started my freshman year of college, but that was the moment where I was like, all right, you gotta stop messing around. That's when I started taking the small steps into really starting the fitness weight loss journey.
And we have not been back snowboarding or skiing again, in case you guys were wondering.
You have not been since then?
We have not been back.
So we'll have to conquer that.
We'll have to go up this.
We'll have to get a dual outing
podcast
or something like that.
Podcast on the slopes.
On location.
Yes, on location. That's a good idea.
That's it. We'll have to do it.
All right, so you guys did your skiing. You went to school. Now you guys are both in the gym at school.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any intimidation from other people at the gym? Were you nervous? Did anybody say anything? How friendly were the other people in the weight room?
For me, I'll have to backtrack to freshman year because that's when I started going on my own. So I was a little more comfortable by the time Dan rolled into there. But as soon as I started going, I mean, it was like, it wasn't necessarily gym intimidation, but I kind of picked my spots. I didn't touch dumbbells. I didn't touch barbells. I only touched, we had an indoor track, so I would do that. Or I would go off to the elliptical, off to the corner, and kind of do my thing there for a while. And then all I would do is a couple of the machines where I would be able to not have to ask anybody. And I was more of a shy kid back then, too, but not have to ask anybody or be afraid that I was doing anything wrong, because there's literally the pictures on they had, the Cybex machines telling me what muscles I'm working out, so I know I'm going to hit back, or I know I'm doing biceps. Shows me exactly what my motions should look like at start, middle, and finish, and I would be able to do my thing. So for me, it was more, I definitely had that self-awareness, self-consciousness of people looking at me like, am I doing this wrong? Am I doing this right? Kind of thing. And then Dan, when he joined.
I mean, like I said, we started going together a lot more, because I don't know how much he was going when he was by himself, but I know when I started going up there, we were only going like 3 days a week, maybe. You know, it wasn't like the 6 days a week we're doing now or anything like that. Like, we started very slow. So, I mean, it wasn't too crazy of an experience for me, I don't think. Not that I remember anyways. Because, I mean, I was with him, so I guess that made me a little bit more comfortable. Like, I had someone else doing it with me, which I think is a great thing to have. If you could have someone to go with you, like, it's definitely always better to do that, especially if you are going to get intimidated or have bad thoughts or anything like that. So we were only going 3-4 days a week.
But this is still 3-4 more days than you were going before.
Right.
Exactly.
And like you said, we were only doing like the set machines. We weren't touching free weights, dumbbells, nothing like that. We weren't doing any like Olympic lifts. We weren't doing squatting. We weren't doing deadlifts. We weren't doing shoulder press. It was all just machine work.
And that just shows you, too, mindset of where we're at. Not to say 3 to 4 days isn't a lot. 3 to 4 days when you're starting out, that's a lot. That's you're jump starting, getting started.
Right.
Anybody starting your journey, don't just like if someone's listening out there and they're thinking of starting to lose weight and all that kind of stuff, don't even just start with maybe 1 to 2, something like that, and take care of it from there, and then jump into it. I mean, we're looking back on it for us, we can say, okay, we were only going 3 to 4 days because now we're used to going 6, sometimes 7 days a week. And things like that. So it goes back to what I said last week too. Don't start comparing your chapter 1 or your chapter 2 to somebody's chapter 20, 21.
Right, and you really like it. Just takes that one time to start to really get it going, because when you're going from lifting or working out 0 times a week to even just 1 time a week, that's like such a huge difference. And I sent you the documentary the other day about the guy who lost all the weight.
Yep.
So this guy went on bodybuilding.com and he posted a picture of himself, and he weighed, I think, close to 700 pounds. And he's basically trying to troll the people on bodybuilding.com. And what had happened was they gave him so much motivation and support that he actually started to lose weight. He started like working out at home. And he said in the documentary, he just started shaking his body like however he could, because he was so big he barely got out of bed. So he was just shaking his arms up and down, shaking his arms left and right, doing bicep curls with no weight. And he said something that was really interesting that kind of goes with what we're talking about. He said somebody asked him what he was going to have for dinner that night. And he said, I'm going to have 10 or 11 enchiladas. And they're like, okay, only have 9. So it's like these little tiny steps that get you to the next point, and then when you're there, you make little tiny steps to get to the next point. So it doesn't feel that like you're trying to climb a whole mountain the first day you've ever rock climbed.
Yeah, I mean, when we were going to the gym 3-4 days a week, I don't even think we were worried about what we were eating while we were at school. Like, I think it was just the gym 3-4 days a week, and that's all we were putting the effort into. Like, I don't even think we worried about our diet then.
Just smaller things, because I started with the soda. We hadn't eaten red meat in a bunch of years at that point, just because of other health reasons, members of the family and different things. So that had been cut out. So it wasn't really a whole big concerted effort. But when you're at a dining hall, sometimes you end up cashing in on some other stuff you wouldn't need anyway. And not that it's an excuse or anything like that, but I'd say food was probably, not top priority.
Yeah, it was definitely secondary on the list to us going to the gym 3-4 days a week.
So once you did start eating pretty healthy, did you notice a big difference from when you were just lifting?
Yeah, and when it started for me, and I'll go into it a little bit. When we first started lifting, we started going to the gym, all good. We started lifting with our one friend Scott, and he knew lifting. He worked out with a friend who was going to school to be an athletic trainer. He was working his way through that. He wanted to get certified. He wanted to do the whole deal. Really get into sports medicine. So he knew lifts. He knew, he's the one that taught us bench. He's the one that taught us, doing incline, the difference between the two. Chest flies, not to stay just all on chest, but that's what he showed us. Instead of getting us off the side base machines, getting us with some free weights and, hitting on those. And so that year, we really started lifting with Scott that second semester, Dan's freshman year. So we had been doing the 3 to 4 days. We got in with Scott, and then we started going more, lifting more. Less cardio, but lifting more and going into that. And that's when I started to hit a plateau and it's not Scott's fault at all, but he was just saying, when you're lifting, you got to make sure you're eating enough. And for me, that triggered back to biggest Brian to just eating, And at a dining hall, it's a lot easier to just eat,
whatever you want.
Pick whatever you want, macaroni and cheese, chicken fingers, whatever they have, as opposed to, having a healthier salad with some grilled chicken or whatever they have. So for me, that's where I really hit a plateau. And honestly, the whole rest of that year, summer, I I don't know that I lost any weight. I mean, I was lifting and learning lifting, so it wasn't by any means a lost period of time. You know, a lot was learned. Just
No,
not
you're
necessarily
building
a lot
your
of lost
base.
weight.
Right.
Exactly.
You're building your base, and then
So I don't discredit that time spent learning with Scott and working out with Dan. You know, I think that was incredibly valuable and definitely something I had to go through to learn and build. So then, like you were saying, once I started eating healthy on top of that, that's when I was like, okay, I'm lifting heavier, I'm losing weight at the same time, and it went from there.
All right, great interview for the first part. I think we'll take a little break, and we'll be right back.
Duel is your source for motivational apparel. Head on over to www.duelthreads.com today. Listeners of the podcast can get 10% off their entire order. Simply go to checkout and enter discount code DUELTALK. That's discount code DUELTALK for 10% off your entire order. Head on over to www.duelthreads.com today. All right, and we're back. And as we mentioned earlier and on the last episode, it's also a cheat day this week for Henry. And Henry, my man loves his cheat days. He knows how to do them right, that's for sure. So I just want to go into it a little bit. Henry, you know, besides you just getting to indulge in some foods that you know, try to keep out of your core diet, what's the important of cheat day, and what's really your motive for indulging in a cheat day?
Well, that's a good question because today I've already eaten.
Yeah, run us through it.
In the morning, I usually do chocolate chip pancakes.
There you go.
And I'll probably have like 10.
That's it?
And then, yeah.
You can probably get 12
we're not
in
talking
there.
the mini ones.
No, these are big pancakes. So, you know, then I like to have one of the DiGiorno pizzas for lunch and 6 Krispy Kreme donuts.
Is that all?
So, and then for dinner, I'll probably, you know, just have one of my regular meals or something. And then maybe some brownies or some ice cream.
Because at this point, you're exhausted, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, that pizza and 6 donuts was a lot of work, actually.
I'm
so
sure.
I'm a little slow today. But no, I think it's really nice to be able to forget about, you know, being so serious about your diet for one day because every day I'm so worried about if I'm getting enough calories in, if I'm eating the right thing, you know, do I have one of my meals cooked up for later? And so for me to just be able to say, okay, today I'm just going to eat whatever I want, guilt-free, donuts, pizza, it really gives me a boost for the rest of the week because I don't feel like I need to cheat those other days because I've already done it one day this week. So, you know, it kind of holds me over for the whole week. I think it's something that's people don't realize when they're trying to lose weight. They think that they have to eat healthy every single meal of every single day, and it's like you're going to burn yourself out doing that. So even if it's just like one meal every once in a while, just like eat what you want. Just be happy for a little bit, and it'll definitely you'll see a difference. I can guarantee you that.
And it's real easy, like you said too, especially, you know, someone that's cooking and preparing their own meals leads a busy lifestyle, whether that's working or school or a combination of both. You know, being able to take not only that, that I guess we would call it physical or break of indulgence, but like you said, the whole mental thing. Am I getting the right amount of calories? You know, people that go to the point of counting macros. Am I getting the right amount of fat? Am I getting the right amount of carbs? Am I getting the right amount of protein? So just to be able to take that day and indulge, like you said.
It's such a mental rest, and it really, the biggest thing, it helps me get through the rest of the week without cheating because I already said, oh, you know, I've had my pizza and ice cream for the week.
Right.
I don't really feel like I need to eat another one because I've already had that. And plus, there's studies that show that it really speeds up your metabolism when you take one day to just eat as much as you can or whatever you want. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with that. I think for people that are trying to lose weight, they see it as this giant task where they're going to have to start eating grilled chicken and rice, 4 times a day for the rest of their life. And that's not true. You can take your one day a week and just eat whatever you want as long as you're not cheating the rest of the days. Just, be good the whole week, and then Sundays just
Concentrate on one day, right?
Yeah, just whatever you want.
I know for like me, like after dinners, I'm a huge fan of my peanut butter. So it's like after dinner, if I want something like sweet or I'm craving peanut butter, like I'm not gonna eat it out of the jar during the day or anything like that. Like I might have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something, but like after dinner, it's like my little cheat to have some peanut butter. Like I'm not eating the whole jar. It's like a couple spoonfuls. I mean, it's probably more than other people would probably say you could have, but I like it, so I indulge myself a little bit.
I'm all about the peanut butter. It's got, I think it's like 130 calories per tablespoon, so that helps me get, to my caloric intake for the day. I'm trying to get.
I mean, there's other worse things that I could be eating after dinner besides peanut butter. So I'll take my little extra peanut butter at the end of the day to make me a little bit more sane or a little bit more happy at the end of the day. You know?
And there's also another trick if you want to kind of like an ice cream. If you take bananas and you peel them and freeze them, and then if you take them out of the freezer when they're completely frozen and blend them with a little bit of Greek yogurt, it tastes like ice cream. For real, it tastes like banana ice cream, and it's something that's super healthy and it tastes really good. So
yeah,
that's kind of a little tip if you're feeling like you need some sugar but you don't want to eat ice cream or cake for breakfast.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to give that a go, but might add some peanut butter in there too.
And maybe not for breakfast.
I don't know. Add some peanut butter in that. That might get you started in the day.
Might get you going.
All right. So, what are your 2 goals that you want to kind of accomplish with lifting or working out, or what are you striving for?
For me, it's definitely. I'm right around 110 pounds lost right now. I'm hovering around that 175 mark. Some days 174, 176. But as we discussed last week, I'm on, not but the lifting program that you follow, the 12, 10, 8, 6 rep weeks and cycling through that 4-week cycle. So I'm really concentrating on that. So I'm trying not too hard to focus on the numbers, but being able to see differences in my body and see differences in my lifts and where that's all taking me. So ideally, I'd like to probably drop about another 10 pounds, but I just say that with the mindset of if I stay this weight and I get the results that I want, that'd be fine too. I'm no longer at the point where I'm looking at the scale constantly like, oh, I want to get down another 5. I need to get another 10. I want to just start aesthetically getting to the point where I, achieve the body that I'm after, and now using the scale as just a check-in point, like make sure I'm sticking where I'm at, or I'm going down a little bit, and then combining what I see on the scale with what I see in the mirror is my biggest thing.
So for me, I think I've pretty much been the same weight for about a year now or so. I still lift 6 days a week and stuff like that, so I'm trying to build more muscle, but try and hover around the same weight. I'd still like to lose a little bit more fat and stuff like that, get like leaner. I know that has a lot to do with the diet, though. It's not just all about lifting. And diet, hearing from our stories, diet is the hardest thing for me to keep consistent or be the hardest on, since I don't have a problem going to the gym 6 days a week. That's not the problem for me. It's the consistently eating healthy. That's always been my issue. So I'd like to get leaner, but I'm also happy with where I'm at.
I think for both of us, still to continue to run, continue to do those things for us. It's more the competition, and for me, like I said, it's more about getting the frame and the build that I want, which isn't necessarily, a small frame kind of thing. I want to be a bigger guy, more muscle. I'm not as concerned with cutting another minute and a half off my 5K time as I am being able to, put up 225 for a solid amount of reps for 4 sets, whatever that may be once I get to that point. But so for me, it's more the aesthetic and the lifting, building that power, building that strength. And for the longest time, I was always trying to get my 5K down. So now I've really had to keep stock of, I'll keep the running for my competitive nature, but in terms of continuing to push myself, I want to focus on the power and the strength and let the running be that outlet for that competitive side of myself.
And I feel like this kind of goes back to what we were talking in the beginning, with how I've always been the faster one, the more lean one than him. I think our goals are a little bit different in that aspect too, even now. Because I'd still like to be faster. I like pushing myself in races and stuff like that. And I haven't always been the biggest proponent of seeing how much weight I could push. That was never something that I was oh, I wish I could lift this much weight or something like that. It's always been just how can I be quicker, better, faster. I still want to be stronger, but it's not important to me to say I could bench 300 pounds, whereas it might be to other people.
I think that's really important to not set specific weight goals for yourself, because I feel when you're setting yourself up for a certain amount of weight loss or weight gain and you don't get it, it kind of takes your self-esteem out from under you.
Right.
So what I've always kind of went into lifting with was, I just want to be stronger and faster and more athletic. And if I lose 5 pounds and I get more ripped, okay, fine. If I gain 5 pounds and I get stronger, okay, fine. I don't really care how I look in the mirror. It's all about how I feel. And I know how much weight I can lift. I want to lift more weight. I'm kind of with Brian on this one. I want to bench 350 5 times, and it's something that I don't sit there and say I want to weigh 210, 205. I want to be stronger. If I happen to gain weight along with it, that's fine. I don't want to be looking at the scale every day.
Right, and I'll throw this in. It's related to that. I work a day job as well as all of us do, and so I see these same people all the time. And for the last 3 or so weeks, I've been right around that same mark. I've been plus minus 3 pounds off of 175, hovering 176, 173, back and forth. But they the past week, I've had people tell me, "Oh, you're wasting away on nothing. You're still losing weight." And that tells me that I know I'm staying the same. But that's what encourages me and continues to keep me going. I'm seeing these differences in myself, and the numbers are going up when I'm lifting, and clearly it's apparent to everybody else in a small way. So that's the kind of thing that just keeps me going, keeps me rolling. It's not I lost 10 pounds, people are noticing. It's these small changes that I'm making and not seeing necessarily in the scale, but people are taking notice as well as myself. So that helps a lot.
Well, that's the other thing, too. It's not just the number on the scale either. It's about, do your shirts fit better? Do your pants fit better? I know that was always, better for me to see, I think. I think that gave me more of a boost than the actual number on the scale. If I lost 5 pounds or if I, lost 2 inches on my waist, I'd rather lose 2 inches on my waist and see the number go down on the scale.
That's kind of something that is important to not set yourself up for a goal that, it might not be reachable, but definitely keep something in mind that you want to achieve for yourself. So that, a couple weeks down the road, you can say, okay, I hit that. Now I'm going to set my goal a little bit higher, try and get there.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's most important, like you said. That's the way to go about it, and it's really the healthy way to go about it mentally and physically. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll jump into the last segment of this episode of Duel Talk. We'll be right back. Make sure to follow Duel on all of our social media channels, @DuelThreads on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. All right, and we're back, and this is the final segment, also a segment that we teased on last week's episode. It has to do with the training masks and all about the research, what they show, should you buy them, would you be interested? So we're going to go right into it, and we mentioned that Dan actually has one. Dan owns one of these training masks, so just want to throw it to Dan. What got you interested? What brought you to the point of actually making the purchase? What compelled you to give it a shot?
All right. So I've seen it on Instagram a while back. I don't even think I followed them right away, but you see every major athlete wearing one. And then I started following the page and everything, and I guess you could kind of say I got pulled into the hype a little bit. I mean, Training Mass knows what they're doing. So I decided to pull the trigger on it, because this is deep in our running. We're so far into our running right now. I think I already ran my PR time, which is 20:57 in the 5K. So
the idea was you wanted to try to get your your cardio levels up, and
I wanted to try and just get
elevate your breathing, kind of.
Yeah, my cardiovascular strength up a little bit. I wasn't looking for massive gains in my cardiovascular area or being able to run so much faster. I wanted to see if it would give me a little bit, a couple seconds. I was taking a couple seconds off my time.
All right, so a little bit of the hype. You bought into a little bit of the hype. You bought into a little bit of wanting to bring your running to the next level, especially cardiovascular wise. And so we'll jump right into it. Henry, you did your homework. You went through. You found some research on the topic and what actually comes out of training with a training mask. So what did we find? What do we have for the people?
Yeah,
the warriors.
I found some interesting research, and I think one of the biggest misconceptions about the training mask is that it mimics altitude training, and
which is what Dan would have been chasing,
right? And this is actually
cardio
completely false, because if you think about it, there's a huge difference between training masks and actual altitude training. When you're in altitude, there's not only less oxygen molecules per volume of air that you're breathing, but the barometric pressure is also lower, which we'll get into in a second. But when you're wearing a training mask, it's basically shoving a pillow on your face and trying to run at the same time. You're not limiting the amount of oxygen that's coming in that same volume. You're just
Okay,
making it harder
makes
for
sense.
yourself to breathe.
Right.
And it's something like I told you before. It's like when baseball players put the weights on their bat. Studies have shown that they don't actually swing faster when they take them off. It just feels like that because they've been holding a heavier bat. So you might
Right.
feel like you're breathing better when you take it off, but you're not increasing the amount of red blood cells in your body. So for the barometric pressure, when you train at altitude, what happens is there's less pressure on your body, so less oxygen molecules can get forced into your bloodstream when you're at a lower pressure.
Right.
Down at sea level, a lot more of the oxygen molecules are getting forced into your bloodstream. But when you're training at altitude, less oxygen molecules are being forced in your bloodstream. So that's when your body starts creating extra red blood cells to give you that advantage.
Right. So it's deeper than actually just limiting the amount of air that you're taking
Right,
in.
so
It's much more in depth than that.
It is, and basically what you're doing when you have the training mask on is might as well just be wearing a pillow on your face because
You're
you're
taking
just,
in less air.
You're just
yeah.
making it harder for yourself to breathe. So maybe your intercostals are being trained, or you're just basically working your diaphragm, which is not making you any better for running or cardiovascular activity.
Right. It's not giving you that necessarily the claim, or they might not even be making the claim. I don't want to misrepresent them, but the idea that when you're seeing them on Instagram, or you see this athlete running up a hill with that, you get the idea that okay, he might as well be running up pick your favorite mountain,
Right.
And that's not that's not necessarily
It's not
the
true
case.
because it's basically physical versus kind of chemically what's going on. It's physically you're restricting airflow, but when you're at a higher altitude, it's chemically there's less oxygen per same volume of air, and the barometric pressure is lower, so less oxygen is being forced into your bloodstream.
Now, and I know from working out with Dan, he would wear it when he was doing cardio, when he was on the treadmill, when he was on the stair climber, different things like that. And breathing's so important, especially in lifting. When you're taking your breaths, breathing in and out, during your reps. What would you think about someone trying to do this while they're trying to strength train? Wearing a training mask while they're hitting their bench.
I think for me, breathing while working out is one of the most important things to work on, because if your breathing is not coinciding with the correct lift that you're doing, you're going to lose a lot of power, a lot of strength. You could injure yourself. So when I'm benching,
Right.
it's breathing in when you're coming down, breathing out when you're going up. You really got to keep that rhythm going, or else it's not going to be good for your workout. So I think it might ruin your workout a little bit. I'm not going to say it's the same for everybody, but if I'm
Right.
trying to run on a treadmill, or if I'm trying to do a bench, I want to have my breathing in order, kind of synced with my body, rather than trying to force myself to breathe through this training mask.
Right. Yeah, and I would agree with you. That's part of the reason why it never really took interest in me. I mean, obviously it was you see it on any type of social media. For the big one, I thought it was Instagram, or maybe that's the one I just used the most. I would see it on there, and I would be intrigued from time to time of maybe I should give that a shot. I'm running these races, maybe it'll help, but obviously never pull the trigger on. Dan, do you still use this training mask? I mean, you must have gotten it. It's got to be at least 6 months ago, if not longer. And, what do you think of it? You still using it? Or are you using it during cardio? Are you using it during strength training? Break it down.
I haven't been using it for like the past 3-4 months. Like I said, I used it. I didn't even use it too much when I went outside to run. I only used it when I was doing cardio at the gym. I guess maybe I felt like that cardio at the gym was like a little less of a workout than how hard I would be running when I was outside. I liked using it on the Stairmaster a lot. I didn't like using it while running too much. I liked using it during like alternate cardio workouts besides running. But I have to say I haven't been using it in a while now. And I didn't see any gains from it anyway, if anybody's wondering that. Like, there's no noticeable difference. I mean, like I said, I didn't use it for that long. I probably used it for like a month, like on and off. I didn't use it every workout either. I didn't want to like overdo it.
Right. So why did you stop using it?
I don't know. It
The
was
hype was
kind of
gone?
just like, yeah.
Lost the hype.
I mean, I was wearing it for a while, and then I was just like, I forgot it one time. It kind
Right.
of just like
Just snowball.
phased out. Yeah.
See, and that's like something that where if something like really helps you, like when I forget my straps for lifting, if I'm doing back, then I'm like, it's like a whole mental
It's
thing.
a terrible day when you forget your leader back.
It's horrible. Or even pre-workout, which I remember texting you one week. I almost forgot my pre-workout, and I literally ran back to my apartment to get it, and then ran to the gym.
You need the pre-workout. If you don't have the straps, it's a terrible day.
The straps was tough. So that's what I was gonna say. A day where I forget my straps is brutal. So when you get to a point where Dan's forgetting his training mask, it kind of shows you maybe it's not the biggest deal, or he's noticing the biggest difference. Whereas when I don't have my straps, it's a sad day. Right. A tear shed.
And even if the training mask did replicate outdoor training, and it did, if it was a good idea, the exposure is way too short. Doing it for 45 minutes or an hour a day of working out, it's not going to be enough to really see a difference.
Right. It's too small of a sample size to be able to deduct anything from it. All right, very good. So that's the whole, we hyped it up, see what we would find out about the training max last week. So
you got the cake story.
Yeah, you got the cake story. If any of you have any thoughts, or, we want to keep bringing in these articles, this research, anything that anybody has questions on, dietary, fitness, if there's any other, what would you want to call them, workout accessories, items like these, let us know. We'll try to dig up what we got or just give our thoughts on them.
Yeah, I think interaction from the audience would be awesome. And, if you guys have any questions, we can always do the research. I don't mind doing it. I have access to a bunch of journal articles because I'm still a student. So, if you want to ask us anything, let us know and we'll figure it out.
We want to know what the Warriors want. So we'll thank Dan for coming on the podcast, whether by his own motivation or if you need a little extra outside motivation. But thanks for coming in, Dan.
Yep, thank you guys for having me. We'll see what the people say, if they want me back or not.
Yeah, take a vote. Who wants Dan back or not? Maybe that'll motivate him to come back.
Put a Twitter poll up.
Let me know in the comments if you guys want me back.
Yeah, there we go. All right, guys. So for Brian, Dan, Henry, we'll be back next week with another episode of Duel Talk. In the meantime, make sure to follow us on social media at Duel Threads. That's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Let us know what you want to hear out of the next episode.
Baby, I know I'm a beast, like I be howling at the moon.